Introduction to being a detective in the Qing Dynasty Again. The modern detective Ling Ziyun was struck by lightning again and traveled back to the Qing Dynasty, continuing his life as a detective in the Qing Dynasty. However, this time, it is always related to a strange and mysterious black cat. What is the origin of this black cat? What kind of adventure will the protagonist Ling Ziyun have? Let's wait and see. I'm back again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Time: 2050 AD. Location: East. As the saying goes, heroes emerge in a great era, where risks and opportunities coexist. Countless good men have been born, and heroes from all walks of life have shown their skills and abilities, treating the real world as their own playground and freely exploring adventure parks. There are winners and losers. The winner has unlimited scenery, spends a lot of money, and is surrounded by beautiful women. The loser is down and out, determined to wait for the opportunity to turn the tide and regain everything that originally belonged to them. In this turbulent era, the biggest winner has emerged, and he is the protagonist of this book. Ling Ziyun. Ling Ziyun is 30 years old this year, with a towering figure, a face like a crown of jade, sword eyebrows and starry eyes, red lips and white teeth. He is incredibly handsome and graceful, and is famous for his beauty in both continents. What's even more rare is that he has excellent skills and outstanding intelligence. He was originally an abandoned orphan, but by chance, he was adopted by a mysterious organization and trained to become a person of both strength and weakness. This mysterious organization is very mysterious. There are 4 mysterious organizations in the world: the Eastern Tinglong, the Western Silver Eagle, the Southern White Bear, and the Northern Green Bee. Although the mysterious organization in the East has its official name, outsiders call it Sword. These mysterious organizations specialize in collecting money to solve major problems for employers, and are considered special staff members outside of the staff. Ling Ziyun is one of the most outstanding personnel in Sword, codenamed Shenying. Originally, Ling Ziyun had been doing well and skillfully in this special work career, but the good times did not last long. Due to the major changes in the international situation, the 4 mysterious organizations also collapsed, and Ling Ziyun unexpectedly lost his job. Who would have thought that doing special jobs could lead to unemployment? Fortunately, Ling Ziyun has been trained to become a skilled detective in this era. With his skills and courage, he transformed and became a detective, navigating between major powers, dealing with various forces, being hired, solving many tricky cases, solving many major mysteries, and becoming a renowned international detective. He went from unemployment to re-employment, from having nothing to having a brilliant life again, in just 3 years, and his transformation was very successful. Although he accidentally traveled back to 1657 AD, which was the 14th year of the Xuanji reign of the Qing Dynasty, causing a considerable blow and confusion to his life, fortunately, the time of the 2 time periods was different. When he returned to modern times, it was only 3 days, while he spent 3 years in the Qing Dynasty. His last year there was in the 17th year of the Xuanji reign, which was 1660. Although Ling Ziyun was adopted by a mysterious organization since he was young, he did not delay his studies. Curious about his background, he diligently studied Eastern history and was not unfamiliar with the history of the Qing Dynasty. However, if he were to truly live in the Qing Dynasty, he would not be very accustomed to it. The key is that his life had to be restarted, and he surprisingly faced many difficulties. So after he came back to Hyundai, he didn't mention how happy he was. He was ecstatic. He immediately announced to the world through the internet that I, Ling Ziyun, was back. We now accept all business, as long as there is a heavy reward, but we will not do anything that violates human justice. Welcome to contact me, contact information remains the same. All those who saw this news were puzzled because they didn't know that Ling Ziyun had traveled back to the Qing Dynasty. Ling Ziyun was also too excited. Without careful consideration, he sent out this confusing news. Everyone thought he had just returned from a trip, and there was nothing to be alarmed about. Everyone laughed at him from behind, saying that such a famous detective had such a childish side, like a child. But this news was really useful. In less than a day, Ling Ziyun received a task with a reward of 10 million Hawang coins. In this era, Hawang coins have become the most valuable world currency. The high reward was unbelievable to him, breaking his reward record. However, what made him even more unbelievable was that the task only required him to catch a cat, a black cat. But of course, not just any black cat is fine, it's about catching a specific black cat. Why catch this black cat? What's special about this black cat? What's the use of catching it? He doesn't know anything about these. But the reward of 10 million Hawang coins is too high for him to refuse. He thought to himself that there may be too many wealthy people, and the money is capricious. He can spend a huge amount of money for his favorite pet. With so much money given to me, not to mention a black cat, even a 5-clawed golden dragon, I must catch it. So he accepted the task. At first, he thought the task was very simple, wasn't it just catching a cat? How difficult it could be, it was like heaven sent him money for it, but he soon realized that he was completely wrong. This cat, surprisingly, is wanted by all major forces around the world. Not only are governments of various countries fighting openly and secretly for it, but major gangs on the rivers and lakes have also become popular on the streets for it. There are also many adventurers like him who collect money to help others. The people on Linjiang Lake are also competing for it, and there are many adventurers like him who collect money to help others. A few times, he almost died. Damn it, what kind of cat is this? If I had known it was so dangerous, I shouldn't have waded into this muddy water. There are many famous detectives who died for beauty, but I died for a cat. Isn't Ling Ziyun going to become a big joke? What will people think of me later? Saying I'm having sex for a cat. Damn it. After narrowly escaping death, Ling Ziyun couldn't help but curse. But it was too late for him to stop. He was already trapped in the whirlpool of black and white struggles. It's also good that this cat is being contested by various forces around the world. The gold owner behind the heavy payment for him to catch this cat must have a strong background, whether it's from various countries or a big mafia. As the competition intensifies, the reward given to him has unexpectedly increased to 20 million Hawang coins, and soon it has risen to 30 million, 40 million. Finally, it has reached 100 million. Ling Ziyun thought to himself that if he could succeed this time, he would not only become the most eye-catching and prestigious person in the world, but also a legendary figure that will be passed down forever in future generations. More importantly, that 1 billion Hawking coins. He can retire from now on. He can't spend all this money for 10 lifetimes, so there's no need to take any more risks as a detective. Just let future generations remember the name Ling Ziyun. His life is worth it, not in vain, not in vain. So, he mustered up the courage to move forward without looking back. Catch that cat. That cat, Ling Ziyun, quickly discovered its uniqueness. It was pure black, but for some reason, it could turn into a fiery red. Its back would sparkle, looking like a glowing golden band. Its eyes were also as colorful as gemstones, not simply monochromatic. It was precisely because it was so strange and prominent that Ling Ziyun and other forces could keep tracking and discovering its location. But this cat is too difficult to catch. It seems to have some strange energy that can fly and escape, but it can't be caught. Moreover, this cat seems to be able to give people hallucinations. Ling Ziyun speculated that this must not be an ordinary cat. It may be a biomimetic mechanical cat with the highest technological achievements of today, which is why it is so magical. Various forces are fiercely competing for it, but it is unclear who developed this cat. How did it escape? Now it's okay, it's making the whole world even worse. Once, Ling Ziyun discovered this black cat in a big mountain and engaged in a chase and fight against it. He also discovered that there were 39 people chasing this black cat in the mountain, including secret agents from 3 countries and professional assassins from 5 gangs. Ling Ziyun used all his skills, including fists, feet, guns, and tricks, to defeat 19 opponents in a row. He continued to advance victoriously and qualified to chase the cat closer and closer. He drove an off-road motorcycle specifically designed for mountain riding, chasing the wind and electricity. The remaining 20 people behind him, left and right, all regarded him as a thorn in their side, eager to pull him out and move quickly. They each came up with unique moves, including those who rode horses, drove cars, drove off-road motorcycles like him, flew airplanes, and used lightness tracking techniques to run on mountain roads like a flat ground. They all held various weapons and were chasing him from both sides, forming a surrounding situation. He is not the goal, but he is the biggest stumbling block for them to achieve their goal of winning that black cat. He is now closest to the black cat, and those agents and assassins know his abilities very well. They are all nervous and shout, shooting at him and launching rockets, but they are all dodged by him one by one. The rockets blast open the ground, causing huge trees to burn and the flames to burst into the sky. The black cat seemed to be teasing them this time. Although it had disappeared, it suddenly appeared again. It was about to catch up, but it suddenly stopped and squatted there motionless. Seeing them getting closer, it then spread its 4 claws and ran away. It once stopped and leisurely added claws to Ling Ziyun, who was chasing it fiercely behind, with a very charming gesture. Ling Ziyun didn't hit a single spot and shouted, "Don't run if you have the guts." The black cat wagged its tail, turned around, and ran. Now, Ling Ziyun is only 10 meters away from the black cat, which is the latest time he has been chasing the black cat. He has turned the throttle of the motorcycle as hard as possible, staring at the black cat with one pair of eyes. He holds a specially designed net-catching gun and points it at it, waiting for a good opportunity to launch. At this time, a rainstorm suddenly fell in the sky, accompanied by lightning and thunder, and the momentum was frightening. The black cat seemed to be suddenly startled and let out a scream. Its 4 paws slipped, and its paws collided with a stone, falling off. It's an opportunity. The emperor does not disappoint those who have intentions. Ling Ziyun let out a loud shout and jumped up from the motorcycle, pouncing at the black cat. At the same time, he raised his net-catching gun and aimed at it. The moment of firing finally arrived. Ling Ziyun was pleasantly surprised. Suddenly, there was a loud bang and a lightning bolt struck, hitting Ling Ziyun. Before he could scream, he lost consciousness and didn't even know whether he was alive or dead. I don't know how long it took, but Ling Ziyun slowly regained consciousness. His hand moved lightly, and his closed eyelids twitched a few times before he could open his eyes. The first thing that caught his eye was a face that was almost as fat as a pig's head, with pitifully small eyes, looking at him with great concern. When he woke up, he chuckled, his face full of joy, his fat squeezed up and down, and his facial features were almost invisible. Only the corner of his mouth cracked open, revealing white teeth. Ling Ziyun was taken aback. He was already mentally agile, and his mind immediately recovered from his surprise. His first thought was, "I'm dead. Killed by lightning. That broken cat couldn't be caught, but I saw a pig in heaven. The pig is in heaven, and he must be Marshal Tianping, Zhu Beiji. On second thought, I found this face very familiar. That's not. Is it? Surprisingly. He bounced up and almost bumped into the person in front of him, luckily he dodged in time. Under this great movement, his bones were about to crack, and the pain was unbearable. His body seemed to be on the verge of falling apart, unable to exert any force, so he sat down softly. He fixed his mind on a familiar scene. A uniform color of wooden furniture, paper windows, ceramic utensils, blue brick walls, blue stone floors, screens. He mustered up the courage and turned his head to look at the face that looked like a pig's head. This time, he looked carefully, shouted loudly, and almost fainted. The person quickly came to help him and spoke anxiously, "Detective Ling, are you okay? Hurry up and rest, and find the Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Doctor who has already treated your pulse. If your life is not in danger, just take good care of yourself." "You. Are you an iron ox?" Ling Ziyun's speech was already weak. "Yeah. I'm Iron Bull." "What's wrong, Detective Ling? Aren't you sick and dizzy? Even I don't know you anymore. We haven't seen each other for only 2 years. You've been missing for 2 years, and we've been searching for you so hard. Finally, we found you deep in the mountains of the neighboring province. You're so lucky that you can't die like this. Heaven pities you, Guanyin Bodhisattva blesses you." Ling Ziyun still couldn't believe it. "How many years is it now? What is AD? I know how many years it has been. Now is the first year of Kangxi, the first year of the reign of the Holy Emperor who changed his reign." Ling Ziyun was greatly surprised and asked casually, "Isn't Xuanji 17 years old?" "Hey yo! Have you been unconscious in that big mountain for 2 years? Why did you become confused after going to another province? Did you suffer from amnesia?" Yes, it must be like that, otherwise you wouldn't have come to see us, but now you have improved. At least remember my name is Iron Bull. I'll tell you, remember, this is a big matter about the head. Lord Xuanji passed away 2 years ago, and the new ruler is the current Holy Lord. He officially changed his name to Kangxi this year, and Kangxi is in power. You must not call me wrong, otherwise the head will fall. His mother. I'm back. Ling Ziyun went through countless hardships to have a great chance of catching that black cat. He was about to succeed, and with this vote, he could retire. Unexpectedly, a lightning bolt took him back to the Qing Dynasty. Last time, it was also a lightning bolt, and the same thing happened to him twice. This world-shattering. It's inexplicable. Ling Ziyun's heart was filled with agony. Scene during the first time crossing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Iron Bull was shocked and quickly covered Ling Ziyun's mouth with his hand, whispering, "Hey yo. Detective Ling, you have to be careful with what you say. Just as I said about the current Holy Emperor Kangxi, you took a sentence from him. His words were overheard by someone else. It's really amazing. You should lie down and rest quickly. You're too excited, you're back, but this person is not clear anymore." Ling Ziyun stared at the Iron Bull in front of him. He was only in his 20s, but he was like an old man, talkative and timid. He thought to himself that he couldn't explain this to him either. As an ancient man with clear attire, how could he understand the year 2050 and how time and space travel happened? It was like talking about quantum mechanics with an ant, struggling aimlessly. The more he thought about it, the more annoyed he became. He pushed aside his hand and shouted, "All right, I understand. I'm so happy that I'm back again." Excitedly, I cursed, "It's okay." Iron Bull quickly nodded and said, "All right. All right. Detective Ling, where have you been in the past 2 years? Have you been kidnapped? How did you escape? Since you solved 2 major cases in our county, Chuan County has been thinking about you every day. After you disappeared, we were all worried and anxious, searching for news about you. We speculated that you were retaliated and kidnapped by Xiao Bolan and his gang, so we secretly went to his territory to inquire, but we couldn't get any news. We also wondered if it was during the pursuit of Huang Blind and his gang that you were accidentally captured. The villagers and the government were all paying attention, but there was no movement. Poor heavens. See, I finally found you in the mountains of the neighboring county 2 years later." Ling Ziyun thought to himself, "You guessed half right. I was hit by that lightning while chasing the blind man Huang. That's unfortunate. I've returned to modern times, and now it's okay. This is how the heavens can play with me, and a lightning bolt has chopped me back. Thinking again. Since those scientists made significant breakthroughs in the fields of quantum mechanics, dark energy, cosmic oscillation waves, and other physics in 2045, they have messed up the physical world. I don't know what Pandora's box was opened or what material was leaked. Time and space travel often happens, and it used to be just occasional. It messes up historical time and space. It's really terrible. If I were to be brought to the dinosaur age next time, wouldn't I have to make a meal on the plate? He sighed inwardly and looked down at his attire. He had changed into a traditional costume, a fine linen shirt, pure fabric pants, and black-faced white-soled cotton shoes. He was just about to ask me where my old clothes went. Suddenly recalling his first time traveling, he awkwardly asked Iron Bull, "When you found me, I was bald." Iron Bull let out a sound and said, "Yeah, you're bald with your round but facing the sky. You've been robbed, right? Your clothes have been looted. Who has such great ability to defeat you? Are you still the group of yellow blind people? Or did you escape naked? They're so ruthless that even your clothes have been confiscated. You're a pitiful person. When I first found you last time, you were also bald. At that time, I thought you were a savage, and there was no decent person who was naked without clothes. You were lucky enough to run into me. If it were someone else, I would have taken you long ago. I sent it to the government." "That's right. You don't have that much, do you?" Iron Bull spoke with a shy and strange expression. Ling Ziyun was puzzled and said, What? Oh my!" Iron Bull exclaimed in surprise, "Well, it said that one of the Huang blind men's group is Longyang Jun." "Ah, you know what Longyang Jun? It means that Longyang is so good that he wants to marry a man as his wife. That. You were caught by them and you look so handsome. They didn't touch you, did they? Are you still chaste?" After speaking, he widened his eyes and looked curiously at Ling Ziyun. Ling Ziyun couldn't help but laugh and cry, and cursed, "Get out. It's all in a mess. Who said I was caught by the blind Huang and his team? Can they have such skills? Just say, who can beat me in this 100-mile radius?" Yes. So you weren't caught by the blind Huang and the others. So why did you go missing for 2 years? Where did you go? We're worried. Especially that Een girl, who has been haunting you every day, can't even eat and shed tears. Now that you're back, I've sent someone to tell her that she should be here soon." After Iron Bull finished speaking, he smiled and showed a look of wanting to watch the excitement carefully. After Ling Ziyun came here, it is well known that Miss Een secretly fell in love with him and had feelings for him. Everyone was just waiting for Ling Ziyun's statement, to see if they became married and happy for them. After Ling Ziyun returned to modern times, he had long forgotten about the Een girl. It was only when he talked about her that he remembered her. This Een girl was 16 years old at the time, but now 2 years have passed, and she is 18 years old. Her full name is Een Chunmin. She is beautiful and lovely, has a good personality, and a plump figure, which can be said to be perfect. However, for some reason, Ling Ziyun is not interested in her. Perhaps subconsciously, he thinks that the two are not from the same era, their values are too far apart, or perhaps he always feels that he must go back. There is no future with her, and that future does not belong to her as a Qing Dynasty person. He doesn't want to disappoint her. She kept her distance all the time. He thought of this Een Chunmin girl, and by the way, he remembered the scene when he first traveled here. One night, he was in modern times. He had just completed a major task of assisting the prince of a certain country in eradicating a group of drug lords and human traffickers who were causing trouble in the local area. He received a large sum of money and was pleased to find a book garden www.zhaosuiyuan.com. He invited a beautiful woman to his home to drink and enjoy the scenery. He was living in a 28-story mansion and had long been interested in this beautiful woman, Huang Yuling. After pursuing her for a long time, she finally agreed to attend the meeting at home. The two of them sat on the balcony drinking and chatting, letting the evening breeze blow through their bodies, gently caressing their restless hearts. Ling Ziyun was about to kiss her mouth when suddenly a lightning bolt struck, blinding his eyes from the white light and causing him to faint, unconscious. After waking up, I had already crossed to the Qing Dynasty, flowing in a small river, naked, with all my flesh exposed, like a dead pig drifting in the river. The first person to discover him was Iron Bull. Iron Bull kindly rescued him and took him in. Ask him what's going on. Ling Ziyun didn't even know what was going on, but he remembered responding casually to deal with him. Picking up girls didn't work. She stripped off her clothes and threw her into the river. Isn't that right? After waking up, Huang Yuling, the beautiful woman, disappeared without a trace. The mansion she was in was also gone, and the tall buildings next to her were also gone. Even the big city was gone. Looking around, there were all towering mountains, rivers, and streams. In the distance, there were also some thatched cottages with wisps of cooking smoke on them. Upon inquiring with Tainyo, he said that this was the Qing dynasty and also referred to it as the Xuanji Emperor. It was in the 14th year of the Xuanji reign in Huaiyan province, but the local ruler was a feudal lord named Wu Sangui, also known as the Prince of Pingxi. Ling Ziyun is familiar with these histories. At that time, he laughed and said, "His mother, who is making such a joke on me? Funny. Funny. Is it Huang Yuling's prank? Which TV drama crew is this? What costume drama is being shot? Wu Sangui meets Qin Yuanyuan. Ha 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 ha." But then he couldn't laugh anymore. Ming army, Qing army, and bandits. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. At that time, he was at Tainyo's home, which was located in a small town in Chuan County. This town was relatively remote, far from the county town, surrounded by mountains and peaks, with paddy fields at the foot of the mountain. Tainyo's home was located at the foot of the mountain, with 2 acres of thin fields to support him and his milk. The 2 milk grandchildren relied on each other and lived a difficult life. Originally, this place was extremely quiet, with only the chirping of birds and frogs, and occasionally the roaring of some wild animals, such as the howling of tigers and apes. My fellow villagers and neighbors are all quiet people who work diligently in the fields, waking up early and staying up late. They have 3 simple meals a day, but there are also meat dishes such as pork. They particularly enjoy marinating various types of dried meat and making good use of various spices to complement their meals. The essential ones are peppercorns and chili peppers. Chili was only introduced from South America during the Ming Dynasty and quickly became popular throughout the country, becoming a daily spice. Ma jiao, on the other hand, was already present in ancient China. Ling Ziyun has never experienced such days before. He has always lived in a mysterious organization and metropolis, and modern technology is constantly changing and innovating, which is no longer comparable to the agricultural society. In the era when he was born, urban construction around the world was greatly developed, and there were not many rural areas. However, due to technological progress and increased productivity, food and products were much richer and more abundant than before. How peaceful! How simple! How indifferent! These are Ling Ziyun's initial ideas, full of curiosity about such a life, and even some longing. He could never have imagined that in the peaceful landscape of mountain village life, there was a turbulent undercurrent and a sinister heart. Just as he was inquiring about the situation with the Iron Bull, an unexpected change occurred. He could only hear the sound of horse hooves, a large number of people and horses coming, accompanied by shouts and insults, and the clanging sound of iron when cold weapons collided. Iron Bull was shocked and his face turned pale. His grandmother trembled in one corner and hesitated. They're here again. Sigh, we can't make it through these days. It's really better to be a peaceful dog than a chaotic person. Iron Bull quickly reminded his grandmother, "Grandma, don't talk. Don't let those people listen and make us unhappy. We just need to be honest and obedient. You just need to hide and don't give him a bad look. I can handle it myself." Grandma repeatedly agreed and hid in the back room. Ling Ziyun inexplicably said, "Chaotic times. Isn't this the 14th year of the Xuanji reign? Emperor Xuanji has already entered the border, established the capital of BJ, and controlled the world. Prince Chuang, Li Zicheng, has been defeated and destroyed. Why is it still chaotic? Is the governance of the Qing government so disorderly that it is as bad as in a chaotic era?" He pondered carefully, and the historical knowledge he had read before suddenly came to mind. Suddenly, he gave Iron Bull a strong pat on the head, which startled him. He also felt a little flustered. Are the people who rode horses here? Are they the people of Emperor Yongli of Ming Dynasty? The forces behind them are the squad of Zhang Xianzhong's Western army back then. These people are both soldiers and thieves, they are so powerful. They are all murderers without blinking an eye. Iron Bull was so impressed by him that he whispered, "How do you know? Isn't that right? They are the people of Emperor Yongli of the Ming Dynasty. They only entered Yunnan from Guangxi in recent years, followed by former Ming Dynasty General Wu Sangui. It is said that the Qing Dynasty has already secretly promised to crown him as king and let him lead the army to fight against Emperor Yongli. One side is named Ming, the other is named Qing, one is the old lord, and the other is the new lord. They all come to compete for territory and control us ordinary people. They fight back and forth, and we also suffer along with them. Originally, we ordinary people are not aware of these things. But they have come many times, and they all say they have followed the imperial edict to enlighten us. We have heard more and know what is going on. Isn't that just about the Chu Han struggle or the Three Kingdoms struggle in the storytelling population? It's just a change of title. What Qin loses its dear and the world pursues it together, what the world will divide and unite for a long time, in short, it's a fight and cannot be stopped." Ling Ziyun was surprised. His mother. "Don't even let me live a peaceful life through time travel, do you think it's not good for me to travel back to Kangxi 35 years? That's about governing the world. Which year did I come to? In the 14th year of the Xuanji reign, I came to Yunnan. As history books say, this was the ultimate battle between the southern Ming dynasty and the Qing dynasty. We fought bravely and fought to the death, avoiding chaos and blood-staining rivers and mountains. Originally, after Xuanji entered the border, the Qing army captured and occupied the imperial capital, and then occupied the central plains. Emperor Chongzhen of the Ming dynasty, Zhu Yujian, also hanged himself on the Coal Mountain. However, throughout the Ming emperors, there were still descendants of Long Sun, as well as a portion of the remaining army in civil officials. They were unwilling to surrender like this and went south one after another. Several Fengzi Long Sun established the southern Ming regime with the support of civil and military generals, which was changed several times. When the last southern Ming emperor was appointed, the era was called Yongli. Under the pressure of the situation, Yongli implemented the policy of uniting with the invaders to resist the Qing dynasty, and joined forces with Ma, the former Western military personnel left behind by Zhang Xianzhong after his defeat, to jointly resist the invasion of the Qing dynasty. However, due to internal strife and military failure, Yongli Jun and his ministers have been constantly retreating and wandering in cities such as Hubei and Guangzhou. Later on, Yongli was unwilling to be controlled by the fierce soldiers of the Western army and became a puppet. He secretly contacted his confidant Li Dinghua and fled to Yunnan under his escort. Some of the soldiers who entered Yunnan with Emperor Yongli sincerely supported him, including Ma from the Great Western Army. The divided Dashi army was no longer a match for the Qing army. They were gradually defeated by the Qing army in the hinterland of the Central Plains. The army was unstoppable and marched westward, following the military and political group reorganized by Emperor Yongli into Yunnan. The two sides fought fiercely in Yunnan, causing countless bloody storms. Ling Ziyun thought of this. Even though he was a modern and skilled detective with both intelligence and courage, he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat amidst the brutal chaos of cold weapons. He restrained his mind, tried to calm himself down, pondered on a good strategy to deal with it, and asked, "So is this a war between the Ming and Qing armies?" Iron Bull shook his head with a bitter expression and said, "No, for the past 2 months, the Qing army has been standing still and I don't know what they are doing. It's probably going to be like Zhuge, the prime minister of the Three Kingdoms, who used to use strange tactics. Anyway, it's very strange. Suddenly, they won't come to attack the Ming army. These days, it's actually the Ming army and a group of bandits who occupy the mountains and dominate this area fighting." Ling Ziyun felt bitter in his heart. Originally, the Ming and Qing armies were already enough to give him a headache, but now there is another group of thieves and bandits. It's really like Chu and Han have turned into 3 kingdoms. After you sing, I will appear and become the Grand Minister of the 6 kingdoms. But after thinking for a moment, he approached Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com and said, "If they want to fight or argue, let them fight and argue. As long as we don't go out, will they still come in?" Iron Bull anxiously said, "It's even worse than fighting in. These two groups of people are not easy to deal with, cowards. They are both demonic rulers who have descended to the mortal world. Their methods of pranking people are really powerful, even more terrifying than killing you with a single blow. They don't know how to fight in, but they will threaten to set fire to residential buildings, destroy farmland, and lose these things to settle down. Life is worse than death. It's not even worse than killing us. They've fought almost enough, and they're burning their blood and heart. If they stop fighting for a while, they will force us out, let us kneel in front of them one by one, and force us to recognize our Lord." At the beginning, they were furious by the bandits. Kill, those who recognize bandits will be angrily killed by the Ming army. Later, they came up with a new trick, saying that killing like this would be too bullying. After we become the masters, they will have to compete and bet on who wins to be qualified as the master. The loser will also lose a weapon and treat us as animals to bet on. Upon hearing this, Ling Ziyun's blood erupted and he was boiling with passion. He was filled with righteous indignation and let out a loud cry, like a thunderbolt in mid-air. How unreasonable! This thunderbolt immediately triggered both sides fighting in the mountains and forests outside, while shouting and cursing at Iron Bull's house one after another. "Who is farting? Get out of here! Which animal is barking? Isn't it deadly? Hey yo! Some bastard kid dares to provoke the king of hell. His mother! Isn't this the home of an iron ox? Ouch, little coward is playing hard this time." Iron Bull immediately collapsed on the ground, staring at Ling Ziyun in one breath without leaving. Ling Ziyun also felt regretful, so why act impulsively as a hero? To proclaim oneself king and emperor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ling Ziyun could only hear the curses getting closer and closer, indicating that those people had already come towards him. Iron Bull is an honest person, how could he have any ideas? I was so scared that I had my upper teeth and lower teeth, and my whole body was so cold that my blood froze. I secretly complained about my own fate, saved such a big silly hat, and even implicated my grandmother. I really regret it. Only sighing and waiting for death, silently praying for reincarnation in a peaceful world and a wealthy family in the next life. Thinking of this can also be considered a self-comforting relief. I feel that all of this is fate, blaming my own fate for suffering. On the contrary, I don't blame Ling Ziyun much anymore. It should be that God sent this big silly hat to clean up myself. Ling Ziyun is a person who is full of opportunities and possesses both intelligence and courage. His mind is constantly changing, and he is pondering on strategies to save his life. He has thought of both hard work and intelligence, but unfortunately, the situation must be one where the enemy is strong and the enemy is weak. Moreover, the disparity is extreme. On his side, there is only a young farmer named Tainyo who is honest and straightforward, and an old lady who is powerless with his hands. On the other side, there is a fierce army and bandits like wolves and tigers. Whether it is hard work or intelligence, the chances of winning are not high. His heart is crossed, thinking that he can only rely on fate and adapt to the situation. He hates this backward ancient times and misses the advanced era that truly belongs to him. He thinks to himself that if he were in modern times, with the blessing of high-tech weapons and various advanced transportation tools, he would use them to deal with a group of enemies. Not to mention victory, the probability of successful escape would always be relatively high. But now, he doesn't even have a cold weapon around him, only a hoe, a shovel, and a rake left by an iron ox at home. Using these agricultural tools to fight against open and secret arrows on the opposite side is undoubtedly an egg hitting a stone. The opposite side was fierce and bustling with people. Listening to footsteps, there were not even 1,000 or a few hundred. Both sides stopped fighting and rushed towards Iron Bull's house in tacit agreement. It seemed that as Iron Bull had said, this group of people regarded fighting and even fighting as a common occurrence, fighting and stopping at any moment. They were accustomed to this life of licking blood on the tip of the knife and acted with determination, claiming to be happy in enmity. I also regard the people here as my own cattle and horses, and whenever I am happy or unhappy, I come to bully and torture them. On the opposite side, there was one leader from the southern Ming army and one from the bandit team. They shouted loudly one after another, but before they could stop, the wooden door of the Iron Bull family was kicked to pieces. Both sides rushed in, and more than 20 people rushed in at once. If it weren't for the small size of the Iron Bull family and the inability to squeeze in, it seemed that they would all be rushing in. Ling Ziyun and Tainyo saw that each of them had a fierce appearance, either wielding bright swords or shining spears. The two leading figures were even more ferocious, arrogant, and Tainyo was so scared that he crawled a few steps and hid in a corner trembling. Ling Ziyun couldn't help but be frightened and nervous. The two leaders, one wearing formal military attire with a dazzling iron armor hanging in front of their chest and abdomen, must be the leader of the southern Ming army, while the other wearing slightly dirty dirt clothes with a bamboo armor hanging in front of their chest and abdomen, must be the leader of the bandits. Those who came with them could easily distinguish who was the Ming army and who was the bandits. Although the southern Ming army and bandits may act similarly in this turbulent world, their identities are vastly different. One is the regular army of the Yongli small court, and the other is the reckless and rogue, both in terms of demeanor and appearance. What do you two mean by, how can you be so unreasonable? Are you dissatisfied with the rule of the current Holy Emperor Yongli? Being untrue to you is being untrue to your father, cruel and unfilial, and a great rebellion and injustice. You deserve more than you deserve. But my Lord is merciful, I pity your ignorance, and I will not sentence you to death. You should settle it on your own. This is the great kindness that Emperor Yongli has shown you. It is the Holy Emperor who has always taught us to love our people like children and not to disregard human lives. That's why I am kind to you, so you must be grateful for Long's kindness. The person who said this was the leader of the southern Ming army. He saw that Iron Bull had already been scared to the point of being foolish, and the man beside Iron Bull was a stranger and also looked like a wooden chicken. He thought to himself that these villagers had indeed suffered enough in the vortex of the Ming army, Qing army, and bandits. He couldn't help but feel compassion, thinking that he would not sentence them to death or torture and kill them with his own hands, but only let them commit suicide, which was considered as the end of benevolence and righteousness, and that they had surrendered to the holy grace. After he finished speaking, he pulled out a short knife from his waist and threw it in front of Ling Ziyun. Then he turned his head, no longer looking at them, as if he knew that neither Ling Ziyun nor Tainyo dared to resist and that they were destined to be scared to suicide. Since the end of his death was already predetermined, there was no need for him to bother, so he didn't even bother to take a look. Ling Ziyun was furious when he saw the corners of his mouth, but he was silent on the surface and scolded in his heart. His mother. What kind of fart is this? What a mess of bastard logic. It's really smelly and chaotic. Is this also considered loving the people like a child? Isn't this really a reckless act of human life? No wonder the Ming dynasty should perish. When he died, he didn't know how to repent. He had become an exiled small court, and even Nanming was so absurd. He is familiar with history and knows that the Ming dynasty was actually the darkest and most corrupt dynasty in ancient times. He still remembers reading a book about the history of the southern Ming dynasty, and the cover of the book printed a headline. If there is internal strife, the country will perish, and if there is also internal strife, the country will perish. At this moment, he actually lived during the reign of Emperor Yongli of the southern Ming dynasty. The feeling and excitement he witnessed with his own eyes were much more shocking than reading books. In a moment, all the memories of the historical knowledge he had read about the southern Ming dynasty were activated. He thought that the southern Ming dynasty was actually just an extra income after the end of a dynasty, just an ending that was about to disappear. Official history never referred to the Yongli year as the Xuanji year, indicating that the Qing dynasty was considered orthodox, and the southern Ming dynasty ultimately died in Yunnan. This was their burial place, but they were still arrogant and unaware, which was ridiculous and pitiful. Ling Ziyun thought of this and also sighed at the fate of history, but more importantly, he sneered and mocked them. What are you laughing at? You look down on my sword, don't you think it's not sharp enough? Those who are wise should quickly make up their minds, otherwise I will change my mind and execute you, Ling Qi. Do you know what Ling Qi's execution is? It's like pulling out your tendons one by one, and then cutting more than 3,000 pieces of flesh from you one by one, but now try to avoid your deadly spot as much as possible, allowing you to slowly bleed and die. In the end, you can see your own skull alive. In fact, you were scared to death and in pain. The leader of the southern Ming army didn't say anything to scare people. Ling Qi's execution was indeed extremely terrifying. Ling Ziyun was about to speak and mock him, but he was snatched ahead by the bandit leader. He only heard him say with a smile, I said, what kind of Ming army are you talking about? They just talk so much and insist on boasting about what Confucian education they have received. They even speak as long and stinky as writing those broken books. Just kill them. What nonsense. As soon as he finished speaking, a large sword in his hand had already been chopped down on Ling Ziyun's head. Judging from his powerful attack, he was actually a skilled player with impressive martial arts skills. Ling Ziyun's fighting spirit was ignited, and a raging fire burned in his heart. He felt strong all over and was about to explode. Seeing his flaws, he was about to fight back. However, before he could move, the leader of the southern Ming army swung his sword and swung it away. The bandit leader was furious and said, Hey! What are you doing, you bastard? I'm going to kill them, but you're here to meddle in your own business. What kind of benevolence, righteousness, and morality do your Ming army want to talk about, but we don't want such hypocritical things. Kill them quickly, let's go fight again. Whoever wins, this small town belongs to them. Look at who has won more small towns, this Chuan County belongs to them. We, Shao, must be the Lord of Yunnan in the end. Drive away Wu Sangui, and proclaim ourselves as the King of Yunnan. We don't need any Yongli Xuanji from you to canonize us, and use so many tricks to make a bird out of it. Use it. So I said, don't procrastinate, kill them and then fight again, don't delay our King Zhao's ascension to the throne. This bandit leader has no education and does not know the difference between a feudal lord and an emperor. He even used the term ascending to the throne to describe a king as a feudal lord in the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com. However, these bandits do not know the superiority of heaven and earth, and even want to declare themselves as kings, which is even more ridiculous. Ling Ziyun couldn't help but burst out laughing, thinking to himself that these bandits, not to mention ascending to the throne, might even find it difficult to eat chicken. The leader of the southern Ming army also got angry. I said that you are meddlesome. Yongle is the emperor today, the lord of the world, and this is our people of the southern Ming dynasty. Do you care? Get out of the way. Only I, a military officer of the Ming dynasty, have the right to condemn them. You are a rogue and a traitor. You are as damned as they are. How can you execute them? Absurd. Oh my. You really treat yourself like a big Ming military official. Didn't Ming kingdom die long ago? Now it's that big Qing world, and you've even come to Yunnan to be crowned as a king, but you've been crowned with a Wu Sangui who you've never heard of before. If you don't honor us locals or Shao, who is the most powerful among us locals, we won't accept it. We can make our own decisions. This is our territory, and this Iron Bull and his little white-faced brother are both under our jurisdiction. How could you interfere? If I let them die, they must die. If I let them live, they must live. Yen the prince has to show me my temper and recognize us as big brothers, Shao. I see you're really impatient. I'll take your life later. Ling Ziyun felt amused when he saw them bickering with each other. He felt that someone like them, if they had traveled back to his era, might not have lived for a day. He even said that he was a frog in a well. But ridicule is nothing more than ridicule. Currently, it is most important to save his own life. While they were arguing, Ling Ziyun remained silent and pondered on a plan to escape. Suddenly, he had a clever idea, and his heart was filled with joy. He decided to make a comeback and take control of the situation. King Jin's Secret Order. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ling Ziyun suddenly burst out laughing wildly, causing everyone's attention and confusion. He did it intentionally, and what he wanted was this effect. He knew that next, the leaders of the southern Ming army and bandits would be very curious and ask him if there was anything funny about him being on the brink of death. Sure enough, the leader of the southern Ming army shouted to him, "Hey! I said you bastard, why are you laughing when you're on the brink of death?" The bandit leader scratched his head and was even more puzzled. He was used to being greedy and afraid of death, but it was the first time he saw someone like Ling Ziyun who was about to die. He smiled happily and looked at Ling Ziyun curiously, saying, "Yes. I see that you are a short-lived ghost with red lips, white teeth, and beautiful eyebrows. You should be sad and crying, but you are still laughing. It's really strange." Ling Ziyun suddenly stood up, with his hands on his hips and his head raised, looking at them with his nose and a stern tone. "Yes. It's strange. You finally think it's strange. You're so stupid. Now you've discovered something strange. Stupid." Ling Ziyun pushed the boat with the flow and continued with the words of the bandit leader. The two leaders were furious and about to attack him, but upon second thought, seeing his confident and fearless demeanor, they became suspicious and couldn't help but be taken aback. The bandit leader said, "I mean, you're dying and you can't help but laugh heartlessly. Isn't that strange?" The leader of the Ming army nodded and said, "Not bad. It's rare for someone like you to die generously. Alright, I pity you for being a man. I'll give you a quick blow to make you die faster, and don't make it difficult for yourself to commit suicide or anything else." After speaking, I will wave a knife at him. Ling Ziyun simply pushed forward without retreating, taking a step forward and quickly saying, "You said I have red lips, white teeth, white eyebrows, and beautiful eyes. Do I look like a farmer in this town?" As soon as he said this, the leader of the Ming army and the leader of the bandits looked at each other and asked each other with their eyes, but both shook their heads gently. They have been entrenched in this town for a long time, and the bandit leader has been born and raised locally. They have a clear understanding of who lives in this town, how many households there are in the countryside, who have escaped, and even how many dogs, cows, and pigs there are in each household. They have searched more than once to seize resources, but have never seen someone like Ling Ziyun. But they were all reckless men who had only thought about how to kill and vent their anger before, completely unaware of this. At this moment, Ling Ziyun reminded them that the person in front of them knew nothing about their background. If it were from outside, it wouldn't be like this. Firstly, this place was chaotic, only those who wanted to run out, and no one dared to come here to die. Secondly, they had set up checkpoints to guard the entrances and exits of this town, and passers-by had to intercept and question them. If such a young man with an outstanding appearance had arrived, they should have already known. Not right. Not right. The two leaders became increasingly surprised and curious. The leader of the Ming army asked him, "Hey. I don't think you're a local, where are you from? Tell me honestly quickly." "Yes. Where did you come from? Tell me honestly," the bandit leader followed suit. Ling Ziyun chuckled inwardly, thinking to himself that these two people had indeed been deceived, and then thought to himself. "You and I have come from 2050, hundreds of years later. At that time, with the technology, any two people with advanced weapons could eliminate hundreds of you bandits." But on the surface, he only smiled, and his eyes were filled with a resolute, confident, calm and composed gaze, making him appear confident and imposing. He looked at the leader of the Ming army and said slowly, "You are such a foolish little leader of the Ming army. I ask you, what position are you holding in the army now? Under whose command?" The leader of the Ming army was amazed when he asked himself this question, but Ling Ziyun's tone and aura at this moment had a magical power that he couldn't resist. After thinking for a moment, he could only say, "Okay. I'll tell you, why don't I let you die in peace? I'll also let you know my name. It's not a secret that I've heard my name 10 miles and 9 townships here. Your master's name is Pan Yongshou, nicknamed Linjiang Jiao. Now he's the centurion in the Ming army, but the leader is the patrol captain. Your superior is naturally the centurion. Hey, you can all stay with the Yen prince after you die. Tell me, how about you die in peace?" The bandit leader in Linjiang Jiao Pan Yongshou had been fighting for a long time. Knowing his background and the truth of his words, he nodded secretly and thought to himself that it was his turn to speak. He also wanted to report his own family like Pan Yongshou, with a majestic aura. He coughed and cleared his throat, "Your master, my name is." Ling Ziyun waved his hand at him and said, "You don't need to." The bandit leader was overjoyed and said, "It seems that you have a good eye and know me. You know my name. Haha." After speaking, he glanced at Pan Yongshou with a full expression, meaning that this kid doesn't recognize you, but recognizes me. It shows that I am more famous and capable than you. Upon seeing this, Ling Ziyun almost burst out laughing and immediately pretended to be serious, saying seriously, "No, I just don't want to know." "Oh my," the bandit leader was furious, "I see your grandmother's life is getting impatient." As he spoke, he kicked Ling Ziyun fiercely, and at the same time, his sword in his hand was full of energy, and he had already swung it down on his head. Ling Ziyun dodged on his side, dodged his foot, and focused on his wrist. With a lightning-like strike, he reached out and hit his wrist, aiming for a hole. His hand tingled, and Ling Ziyun snatched the knife from his hand. Ling Ziyun hit him in the chest with the handle of the knife, and he let out a scream, falling backwards. The sudden change was extremely hasty, and before Pan Yongshou could react or even see clearly, the bandit leader had already fallen to the ground, as if he had suddenly developed a vicious illness. Hey, it hurts. This kid is so capable of fighting. We've been fooled. Hey. The bandit leader complained incessantly and freely. Pan Yongshou looked at him curiously, then at Ling Ziyun, still unable to believe it. Did you knock him down? Didn't he suddenly fall ill? Ling Ziyun smiled slightly, but did not answer his words and said, Captain Pan. I'm asking you, do you know what I mean by saying that there is no such thing as reason? Pan Yongshou had already been led by his nose and walked away, shaking his head. I don't know, he said. Ling Ziyun pointed to the iron bull hiding in a corner, crouching with its head hugged and trembling, and said, I say it's unreasonable, it's because of him. Pan Yongshou was puzzled, not knowing what he meant, and shook his head again. Ling Ziyun said, this person is an ignorant and foolish young man. The lowly people in the grasslands do not understand the righteousness of their country, so I will save him and teach him the principles of his character. This person is called Iron Bull, and he actually says some confusing and important things, saying that the Ming army and bandits are the same. Whoever fights will listen to him, and whoever wins will be the master. I have to submit to him. I am angry with him, and I curse at him, saying that he is unreasonable. Pan Yongshou nodded and said, I see. Didn't you scold us? Ling Ziyun ignored him again and muttered to himself, Commander of the 100, Pan Yongshou, obey orders. I, Ling Ziyun, have been ordered by King Li Jin and the General of Angua to secretly investigate the military and civilian situation in Chuan County and other places, to investigate the achievements and losses of your troops, as well as the safety and fortune of the people under your rule. Due to the dangerous journey and the need to act in secret, you have not yet learned about it. However, I believe that soon you will receive a secret order from your superiors, asking for your full assistance. This iron ox is the first object of my investigation of the people's situation. I see that he is kind-hearted and confused to death, so I want to save him. I have instructed him to save him today. The benevolent governance and generosity of the Holy Emperor Yongli allow him to be a loyal, patriotic, and law-abiding citizen with peace of mind. He doesn't have to be afraid of bandits and the Qing army. When he comes to report to the authorities, our Ming dynasty will uphold justice for him. He talks confidently, all of which is nonsense, but he has a flexible mind, quick thinking, and is quite familiar with the history of the southern Ming dynasty. He knows some basic language of the time and speaks it with a decent and imposing demeanor. As for what Pan Yongshou will soon receive a secret order from his superiors, asking him to fully assist and so on, of course, it is all nonsense under the strategy of delaying troops. Now as long as he can be intimidated, it will be a long time before he can spread oil on his feet, and it will be a matter of whether he keeps the secret order or not. Pan Yongshou was taken aback by his aura and words. He couldn't help but disbelieve them, but it felt awkward for him to believe them. Just now, this kid was still a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, and suddenly transformed into his own leader. Still claiming to be the General Ling Ziyun. Those who are qualified to call themselves generals are at least generals in charge of 10,000 people. Those who dare not even call themselves generals are most likely to call themselves commanders or officials. In ancient times, the hierarchy was strict and there was a distinction between superiority and inferiority. Iron Bull secretly heard from the side, but said that this rascal was so scared that he had lost his mind. He couldn't help but complain in his heart, thinking that he was almost finished. Ling Ziyun's words are baseless, but Pan Yongshou has been immersed in the officialdom for a long time, fully aware of the importance of being careful when sailing a ship for thousands of years and being able to bend and stretch. He unknowingly became polite to him and softened his tone, saying, You said you were following the secret order of the King of Jin, and your words are baseless. Is there any evidence? If not, based on your words alone, even as a brother, I dare to believe that these 100 people under my command are not convinced. Ling Ziyun had already figured out what to say to deal with him in his heart and said, Of course there is evidence. The secret order has always been by my side, and I have a decree from the King of Jin. Unfortunately, I was attacked by the Qing army on my way here, and my bodyguards and followers all fought to death. I was the only one who managed to escape. I dare not disappoint the mission of the King of Jin, and I came alone. The road was full of difficulties, including climbing mountains and crossing rivers, and encountering poisonous snakes and beasts. When I arrived here, my clothes were all torn, almost naked, unconscious and drifting in the river. There was no secret order left. Edict, I lost it long ago. Sigh. I have insulted the king of Qin and entrusted him with great responsibility. Don't believe me, ask that iron bull. He was kind at the time, and it was he who saved me in the river. He pointed at the iron ox. Pan Yongshou stared fiercely at Iron Bull and said, "Hey! Iron Bull, is what he said true? If you dare to deceive me, I will kill you and your grandmother, and make sure your bones are gone." Iron Bull didn't know if Ling Ziyun was a general who had received a secret order from the king of Qin, but he was completely naked drifting in the river. It was true that I rescued him, and he had the courage to think of it. He nodded. Pan Yongshou knew that Tainyo was timid and honest, and he would never dare to deceive himself. When he nodded, his expression was sincere and he couldn't help but believe it. He nodded and smiled a bit at Ling Ziyun. "Nevertheless, you have no basis. How can brothers believe you?" Ling Ziyun said, "I don't have the secret order and edict anymore, but I'm still here." As he took a step closer, his mind searched for knowledge and memories of the history of the southern Ming dynasty as much as possible. Slowly, he put his mouth to Pan Yongshou's ear and whispered, "I only said it once, listen carefully. Everyone knows the name of King Li Jin, his great name is Li Dinghua, but few people know his character. His character is Hong Yuan. King Jin was originally the adopted son and former branch of Emperor Zhang Xianzhong of the Great West, and Emperor of the Great West had 4 adopted sons. Among them, King Jin and son Kawang had the greatest ability and reputation, but they both had resentment towards each other and were on par. Son Kawang later surrendered and wanted to kill Yong Li Yi. It was the king of Jin who saved Yong Li Yi. He went to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com and defeated the Qing army in Hengyang, supporting Yong Li Ye's entry into Yunnan along the way. He stopped here and watched Pan Yongshou's reaction. He was stunned and his body trembled slightly. He chuckled inwardly and continued, "Your nickname is Linjiang Jiao. You must have been under the command of our Dashi army." Later, the Dashi army and the Ming army merged to unite and resist the Qing dynasty, and we became the Ming army. Originally, our daiming still had Guangdong and Guangxi, but the Qing army's Li Qingdong team disguised themselves as the Ming army and took advantage of the situation to break through Guangzhou and occupy the entire Guangdong territory. It's really despicable. Then, some high-level internal conflicts and discord were mentioned, such as the exchange of insults and arguments between Huang Daozhou and Zheng Zhilong, the father of Zheng Qinggong, who was leading the anti-Qing movement along the coast of the Dongmenhai Sea at that time. All of what Ling Ziyun said above can be seen from historical books. He has a good memory and even recounts almost everything he remembers in one breath. These things are not secrets in later generations, but they were great secrets at that time. Only those in high positions can know. Pan Yongshou's position is low and he has no right to know, but he has been in the military for a long time. These things have been secretly circulated within the Dashi army and Ming army, and he has heard many of them. At this time, what Ling Ziyun said perfectly corresponds to what he heard. Even if he is not a high-ranking person, he must be a member of the Great Western Army and the Ming army. He is his own person, and he may even be that kind of general. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat at the thought of my recent offense towards Ling Ziyun. As my legs softened, I knelt down and shouted, "I'm a lowly Pan Yongshou, pay my respects to the general." Ling Ziyun's mouth twitched and he almost couldn't help but burst into laughter, but he finally tried his best to hold it back. With a serious demeanor, he reached out his hands to help him up and said, "Captain Pan, I'm exempt." Iron Bull suddenly saw this strange sight beside him, thinking that he had actually died and was lying in the underworld dreaming. Going is a top strategy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. The Ming army forced a general. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Pan Yongshou's face turned slightly red. The flattery didn't go off. Seeing Ling Ziyun's face expressionless, as if unhappy, he immediately dared not continue and changed the topic. "General Ling, brothers can rest here for a while. How about we go back to the camp? There are big bowls of wine, big chunks of meat, and sleeping areas in the camp, which are much more comfortable than here. Let's set off now." He had already determined from his heart that Ling Ziyun was General Ling and his leader. He always sought his advice and reported everything to him, looked at his opinions, and waited for his orders. Ling Ziyun saw that this, out of nothing, and, hiding from the sky and crossing the sea, strategy had been completed, and couldn't help but feel secretly happy. However, immediately worried from it. He was a fake general, originally a temporary measure, but now it is very rare to avoid it. It is now safe. How can we go back to camp with him? If it were discovered, wouldn't it have turned into a trap for sheep and tigers? He said to Pan Yongshou with a serious expression, "Captain Pan. You are not sensible now. I have received a secret order from the King of Jin to come to Chuan County for important official duties, but I was intercepted by the Qing army on the way, which has delayed me for quite some time. Although you are also a member of the Ming army's camp, to be honest, your rank is not enough. The secret order clearly states that I am going to report to General Pian, the superior of your superior, and ask him to assist me in my task. How can I delay drinking and eating meat in your camp? I cannot bear this charge, and you cannot bear it." After speaking, he raised his right hand to the front of his neck and made a gesture of cutting his throat, meaning he was about to lose his head. "I have to leave now. Hurry up and report." Ling Ziyun didn't wait for Pan Yongshou to agree, but immediately stood up and grabbed the still confused iron bowl beside him, about to leave. Unexpectedly, Pan Yongshou was a stubborn and enthusiastic person, afraid of offending Ling Ziyun before. If Ling Ziyun could accuse him in front of General Biao, he would be finished and unable to bear it. In a moment of desperation, he knelt down with a pleading expression on his face, and called on all the people under his command to kneel down, shouting loudly, "General Ling. We finally met you, thanks to the blessings of God and the King of Jin. Your family is safe and sound, and we, as young people, are all happy in our hearts. But you are about to leave now. We, as brothers, must not agree because there is still a long and dangerous journey from here to General Pian. There are both bandits and bandits on the road, and we cannot watch you die. Brothers, do you think so?" "Yes." The Ming army, with nearly 200 soldiers, shouted in unison. Although they all felt tired at this moment, shouting together still intimidated them. Pan Yongshou said again, "Although our camp cannot be compared to the general's side, it is also a regular unit and the son of the Ming army. Since this is the case, we have a responsibility to protect your safety. Besides, you came to us because of an accident and were ambushed by the Manchu bandits. You were rescued by us and rested and recuperated in the camp, which is a reasonable thing. Even if the King of Jin knows about it, we cannot punish our camp, let alone you. If you leave us and our guards are incomplete, delaying the King of Jin's major affairs, that would be the greatest death penalty. Brothers, do you think so?" "Yes." The Ming army shouted together again. Ling Ziyun remained calm and looked at Pan Yongshou, the Linjiang Jiao kneeling on the ground. Upon hearing him say this, Ling Ziyun suddenly realized that Pan Yongshou was going to invite merit. According to his words, Ling Ziyun was actually saved by the joint efforts of their military camp. He thought to himself, "It seems that I underestimated this Linjiang Jiao. On the surface, this person seems reckless and honest, but in fact, he is as meticulous as a hare. The city is quite deep and adaptable. It seems that he is afraid that I will sue General Pian, and he wants to take the opportunity to invite merit. Thirdly, he still doesn't believe me and secretly guards against me. I came up with an idea in a hurry and temporarily deceived him. Although it was my skill, it was really a bit lucky." At this moment, Ling Ziyun's mind was spinning, but seeing them so united, he couldn't think of a pretext for a moment. Pan Yongshou, however, took advantage of the heat and said, "General Ling, rest assured that our battalion has a special team of scouts named Kwai Ma who contact our superiors. They will report to the commander how you are in danger and how you arrived at the camp. The commander will soon report to General Pian, and General Pian will send people and horses to pick you up. We will personally escort you to their front, so we can rest assured. So, General, you don't have to worry too much. Brothers, do you think so? Yes. At this moment, Iron Bull also said, Ling General Ling General Ling. They're right. We should go to his camp for safety, and my family is absolutely not allowed to go back. Oh my. My old grandmother is still at home. What should we do? I have to go save her. After saving her, let's go to the camp together. There are no bandits and full of bandits, that's safety. He saw that Ling Ziyun was actually a general now, and he was Ling Ziyun's life-saving benefactor. He thought that Ling Ziyun would take care of him, so he was not afraid of the Ming army bullying him, and even had a good life. Not long ago, he secretly cursed Ling Ziyun as a big idiot, which would harm him and his grandmother. At this time, the situation was different, and he regarded Ling Ziyun as a great benefactor. Ling Ziyun saw that he was not smart when he was supposed to be smart, but now he's playing with his mouth. He couldn't help but feel angry and scolded him, "Shut up. What do you stupid young man know?" Iron Bull was startled and quickly closed his mouth. Ling Ziyun said, "Captain Pan, this Iron Bull's home should be safe now. Please send some brothers to his house to pick up his grandmother and come here first." Pan Yongsho was secretly pleased. After hearing Ling Ziyun's order, he knew that this was almost done. He quickly agreed and shouted, "De Yong. You take 20 brothers to Tai Nyo's house to pick up his grandmother, and look for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com to protect her safety." Delying. A strong man stood out and answered, ordering 20 Ming soldiers to follow him. Ling Ziyun saw that the Ming army was being held back like this, and he wanted their help for the Iron Bull's grandmother. It was already difficult to get off, and at this point, public anger was unbearable. Pan Yongsho was also a difficult character, so he couldn't act alone and disobey everyone. After thinking about it, he decided to go to their camp and find an opportunity to escape. Anyway, he could defend against the first day of junior high school, but not the 15th day. He had already made up his mind and immediately changed his attitude. He laughed and said, "Not bad. Not bad. We have talents like Captain Pan in the Ming army, and good brothers and men like you in your camp. It's really the blessing of the Ming dynasty. The blessing of Lord Yongli. The blessing of the King of Jin. Good. It's rare for you to think so comprehensively and completely reach my heart. When Iron Bull's grandmother arrives here, let's go back to the camp together." After returning to the camp, Captain Pan must immediately report the good situation to the higher-ups and not delay major events. Pan Yongsho was overjoyed and shouted, "I have received your order." He said again, "Brothers, that's great." General Ling agreed to stay. The Ming army shouted together, "General Ling, blessed by the Holy Lord. Hong Fu Chi Tian. Victory in all battles." Ling Ziyun secretly complained in his heart, but pretended to have a satisfied smile. He waved his hand and said, "Brothers, you can stand up now." There's no need to be too polite. Pan Yongsho quickly led the crowd to stand up, appearing to be obedient to Ling Ziyun and acting quickly, but in reality, was it? Only Pan Yongsho knew it in his own heart. Ling Ziyun's heart was pounding with drums, feeling a bit uneasy. He thought to himself. In ancient times, these people were not as easy to deal with as high-tech modern agents, assassins, and adventurers. It seems that every era has its own difficulties and game rules. Go to the big city and become the chief constable. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. One sword without God. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Qing County is 200 kilometers away from Weishan City. Ling Ziyun and his group slept in the wind and rain on the road, led by soldiers from indigenous backgrounds who were familiar with the terrain. They tried to avoid the Qing army and bandits as much as possible, but everything went smoothly. After walking for more than 10 days, they finally arrived at Weishan City. Weishan City is close to the T-Horse Ancient Road, with developed trade and prosperous commerce. The city is full of people and bustling. Since ancient times, the bustling city has been a source of profit, gathering various religions and people of all kinds. This place was recently occupied by the Qing army, and the people were initially dissatisfied. After being forcefully suppressed by the Qing army, peace came down. However, the Qing army was afraid of unstable rule and still maintained strict control. Another announcement was posted in the Yamen, inviting talented individuals to volunteer and recruit the position of chief constable in the new Yamen through a grand competition, in order to win the hearts of the people. The strict control and the policy of winning people's hearts were achieved through a combination of soft and hard measures, with a big stick and carrots in hand. The Qing army was able to rule well. Currently, the Qing army in Yunnan province is mainly led by Wu Sangui's troops, supplemented by a group of flag soldiers. The majority of the flag soldiers are still stationed or transferred to the Central Plains. The task in Ling Ziyun's secret order was originally only known to him and the biased general Jiang Qizhong. Later, when they combined, although this undercover mission was secret, someone always needed to assist. Therefore, they selected 3 shrewd and capable confidants from Jiang Qizhong's side to assist Ling Ziyun. At the entrance of Weishan City, as planned, most of the soldiers disguised as refugees escorted Ling Ziyun back to Qing County. These soldiers only knew about the escort mission, and the rest were unknown. Only 3 of Jiang Qizhong's confidants secretly listened to orders to complete the task assigned by Ling Ziyun. One was Qiu, a strong man who disguised himself as a laborer after entering the city. The other 2, one was Jinifa, disguised as a small businessman, and the other was Lin Xingbao, disguised as a craftsman. The 3 of them were dressing up in the dense forest outside the city, preparing to enter the city first. Ling Ziyun, Iron Bull, and Iron Bull's grandmother then entered the city. Ling Ziyun learned a lot of local dialect from Tainyo and his grandmother along the way. Ling Ziyun was smart and had learned it properly. The journey was also sunny and rainy, and his skin had become quite dark. In addition, his physique was already strong, and when he entered the city, he had already become like a local. Ling Ziyun couldn't explain the details of the secret order to Tainyo clearly, but only told him that he had abandoned the secret surrender to Qing, and that there was nothing easy to become as a general in the Ming army. He wanted to start his life again in the Qing court's Yamen and become the chief constable of the Qing dynasty. After becoming the chief constable of the Qing dynasty, he would definitely have his benefits. He repeatedly reminded him that in order to avoid misunderstandings and suspicion in the Qing court's Yamen, he must not reveal that Ling Ziyun had once served as a general in the Ming dynasty, otherwise he would also be ruined. Iron Bull is an honest person, hoping to make a living with Ling Ziyun, a great nobleman, and make a name for himself. He immediately promised repeatedly, swearing with his wealth and life that he would never reveal a word. He should only lose his memory and forget all the past events. As for Iron Bull's grandmother, who was old and mentally confused, and also blind and deaf, she didn't know much about these things. She thought she came to Weishan City to avoid bandits and live a new life. Ling Ziyun was very reassured about her. The 3 of them entered the city and found an inn to stay. Iron Bull took care of his grandmother in the room, and Ling Ziyun went to the Yamen to register and fill out his life and death certificate. The General Constable's martial arts competition will be held 3 days later. Taking advantage of the remaining 3 days, Ling Ziyun secretly contacted and gathered with Qiu, Jinifa, and Lin Xingbao to discuss actions and strategies for advancing and retreating. 3 days later, the martial arts competition was held as scheduled, and Ling Ziyun attended the meeting early. The venue of the martial arts competition is in the square in the center of the city, with an arena set up in the middle. The arena is lined with Qing army flags, and is jointly hosted by the governor of Weishan City and the Qing army generals stationed here. The martial arts competition is a major event in Weishan City, with many people watching the excitement. The arena is already densely packed with people. As many as 200 people participated in the registration process. After the first round of screening, only about 50 people were left behind. This first round of screening was actually very simple, with a dedicated person responsible for evaluating the applicant's body shape and basic martial arts skills. If their body shape was too weak or unattractive, and their martial arts skills were insufficient after another attempt, they would all be eliminated, and the more than 100 people who were eliminated would belong to this category. Ling Ziyun has a dignified appearance, a strong physique, and has been recognized for his martial arts skills, making him one of the finalists. On the grand arena, the lines are drawn in half and the positions are sufficient. The 50 finalists are divided into two groups, one group of 20.5, and the two groups compete. The winner enters the next round of competition, and so on, until the champion is selected. The first round was about martial arts. Ling Ziyun's opponent was a big man with a physique even stronger than him, who was majestic and imposing. His big hands were like two axes, with infinite power, but his martial arts were just average. Ling Ziyun had learned Eastern martial arts and Western boxing in modern systems, and even had dabbled in some secret martial arts from Pacific Island countries. Naturally, the big man was not his opponent. In less than 5 rounds, he was kicked off the ring by Ling Ziyun. The audience cheered one after another, and the presiding magistrate and general were impressed by Ling Ziyun's beautiful kung fu, leaving a deep impression on him. Ling Ziyun can be said to have taken the lead. The big man still refused to accept it and wanted to come on stage to fight, which violated the rules of the competition. Several yamen runners next to him had to hold him tightly before dragging him away, and he cursed incessantly. Ling Ziyun only grinned at him without retorting, thinking to himself that this person could not be defeated, and his magnanimity was narrow. Even if he was asked to become a chief constable, he would not be able to do it for a long time. The second round is about archery. Ling Ziyun has never learned archery, but he is a skilled shooter. When he became a famous detective in modern times, his marksmanship was like a god. He did not know how many powerful enemies he had defeated, nor how many times he had saved his own life. Archery and shooting are similar, with the same essence and tricks. Ling Ziyun has full confidence, and his arrow hit the target, achieving a grand slam. Ling Ziyun was extremely proud and laughed heartily. His opponent, however, was slightly inferior. He hit 9 out of 10 arrows and lost 1 arrow to Ling Ziyun, ultimately losing the battle. He looked at Ling Ziyun in surprise, not realizing that there was such a divine archer in the world, but his aura was much better than that of the big man just now. He bowed in admiration, not making any noise, and then stepped down. Ling Ziyun returned a gift to him. Zhaoshuyuan.com. The third round is about comparing swords and knives. By the third round, there were only 12 people left, still divided into two groups, 6 on 6. There are quite a few experts who have come to participate in this martial arts competition, and these 12 are all elites. They all look fierce and energetic, and some famous people loudly promote their names. They all mention their names, such as Yunnan's #1 warrior, Weishan's #1 tiger, Cloud Dragon, and Forest God Python. They all sound like very intimidating titles. One of them, Ling Ziyun, has the deepest impression because he is called One Sword Wushan. It is said that he uses one sword to avoid even gods and ghosts. Ling Ziyun also doesn't know if their abilities can match their title, because he only has one opponent in each round, and so far, he has not lost. His opponent in the third round was none other than that sword, named Long Wusho, with sword eyebrows and eyes, a face full of red light, and an extraordinary demeanor. It was already noon, with the scorching sun in the sky and the scorching wind. Everyone at the martial arts competition was sweating profusely, while the contestants on stage were fully focused, trying their best to fight. The audience below held their breath and watched closely. Among the three pairs of people in the martial arts competition, Ling Ziyun and the sword without a divine dragon without a head had the most exciting fight, and almost everyone's attention was focused on them. The nickname Long Wushou, Sword Wushan, is not just a boast. When wielding a sword, it feels like the anger of 1,000 soldiers and the galloping of 10,000 horses. The sword energy is like a rainbow, the sword edge is like a dragon, and the sword light is like a battle. The sword is incredibly fierce, and one sword is even stronger than another. Ling Ziyun was secretly shocked. Damn it! What a lifeless sword! Is there really such a powerful person in ancient times? Isn't this something that only exists in martial arts novels? Even more powerful than the world fencing champion in modern times. My goodness! Ling Ziyun murmured inwardly and countered with a parry in his hand. Lu Linjiang. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors.